Glasnow. 2 balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. This is way back. Walk the ball. Let's Taylor.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another live DodgerHeads postgame show presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Matthew Moreno. Joining me is Daniel Starkand. Daniel, you're back by popular demand, but unfortunately, we're doing this one after a loss that has ended a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah, I enjoyed the pregame show more the other night when we were coming off a nice sweep, and they obviously kept it going in the first 2 games of this series. But yeah, obviously frustrating L, getting no hit for the first half of the game or whatever, and then having the bullpen implode with some of your best relievers, sitting on the bench watching along. It's frustrating, but at the same time, we're sitting here on July 4th, like overall big picture, Dodgers still have a huge division lead. They just won 5 straight coming out of the All-Star break. So it was good to see them at least right that ship. But yeah, obviously a frustrating loss tonight.
Yeah, we want to thank everybody who's joining us right now live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're new, if you've been with us for a while, you know how this goes. If you're new, our plan tonight is we're going to recap the game initially, and I know that there are going to be plenty of different opinions on how Dave Roberts handled the pitching staff and the bullpen, particularly in the 8th inning as the game was blown open. We're also going to touch on Tyler Glasnow being back from the injured list, the signing of Nick Ahmed, and then we'll look ahead. We'll turn the page on tonight, look ahead to Clayton Kershaw's return. And of course, we'll also leave some time for questions at the end. But a reminder that if you are on YouTube and you want us to address a specific topic, or you have a certain question you want us to answer right away, Super Chat is the way to go. We'll put it up on the screen. Daniel and I will pause whatever we're doing and make sure we get to that. And also, if you are a YouTube viewer, please be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, all that good stuff. And we're also available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and all that. So definitely subscribe there if that's how you listen to us. We appreciate that as well. All right. Well, Daniel, let's get into it. There's no sugarcoating tonight's game. The Dodgers, they were on a nice little 5-game winning streak, undefeated out of the All-Star break. Facing Robbie Ray for his first start since having Tommy John surgery. Hadn't pitched in like 16 months or whatever it is. Beginning of the 2023 season was the last time. Tyler Glasnow was back. Reason to be optimistic, I think, that the Dodgers would get it done. And Glasnow didn't really have it. He struggled to locate, get the first pitch strikes. He did end up going 5 innings, had a lead for most of the night, but did exit with the Dodgers trailing 2-1. Giants scored both of their runs in the 4th inning. Matt Chapman hit a home run off Glasnow. Then Mike Yastrzemski's RBI single put them ahead. Before that, Robbie Ray looked like the pitcher that I just alluded to, who hadn't been on the mound in quite some time. And real quick, if somehow our viewers or listeners did miss it, just bear with me. Like this first inning after Robbie Ray, he retired Shohei Ohtani to start the inning. Then he hits Will Smith, throws a wild pitch, walks Freddie Freeman, throws another wild pitch, walks Teoscar Hernandez, walks Andy Pages. That one brings in a run. Daniel, at this point, it's looking like the Dodgers are about to put up a crooked number pretty early and get the night going.
Yeah, I was joking that we haven't seen Robbie Ray pitch in like a year and a half, but it honestly feels like he never left. Going back to that first inning, like you said, he was kind of all over the place. And obviously, if you're the Dodgers, you want to get more out of that inning, like 2 walks and 2 hit batsmen, no hits, of course, but, they leave the bases loaded or whatever it was like that. That kind of felt like a bad omen from the start there, not, only being able to put up 1 run there was not ideal. But, at the same time, Robbie Ray is still a good pitcher, I guess, he's effectively wild, as they like to call it. He honestly, he kind of reminds me of Blake Snell a lot. They're very similar pitchers, both lefty, of course, but when those guys are on, they're usually still wild, but they're finding a way to get out of jams and get the big strikeout to leave the bases loaded when they need it, or wherever the case may be. And that's kind of what we saw here. And anytime you let a pitcher who's all over the place off the hook the way the Dodgers did in the first inning, then it always feels like they settle in after that. And that's kind of what we saw tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Not only was that the one run, the one run was all the Dodgers got off in that inning off of Robbie Ray. Turns out he then goes 5 no-hit innings. Uh, to your point, it was interesting to sort of see kind of the good and bad with Robbie, and also he's pitched well against the Dodgers in his career. It seems like, and not even it seems like he has, and especially at Dodger Stadium, he's had enjoyed a lot of success there as well. Uh, so the Giants, they take their lead in the the fourth inning, and the Dodgers are stuck on no hits until Chris Taylor's 2-out double in the seventh inning. So you finally feel like, okay, the Dodgers aren't going to be on the wrong end of a combined no hitter. They have the tying run in scoring position, but Chris Taylor comes out of the game right away because of an injury, which has since been announced as left growing tightness. That's kind of the preliminary report. Blake is at the stadium getting post-game interviews, so I'm sure we'll get a little bit more from Dave Roberts. And my guess is Chris will probably speak as well from the clubhouse, so definitely stick around to our YouTube channel for those videos once they're up. So Chris Taylor's out of the game. Dodgers end up stranding the runner. Then the Giants break the game open in the eighth inning, and I feel like this is where we're about to see the comments really lighting up because it was happening on social media. Sticking with Yohan Ramirez for that eighth inning as he's really struggling. I mean, I get a lot of the frustration of, fans being upset with his performance and why he's being left in the game. But again, like the Dodgers, it's a long season. The Dodgers bullpen again is in a position where they've shouldered a significant load of late. And so you have to protect your high leverage relievers when we're, sitting here on July 24th.
Yeah, like I get the frustration, I really do, but like you said, like we're sitting here in July, and to me, like I want Blake Trinan and Daniel Hudson and Evan Phillips, like I want those guys healthy and rolling in October, like, and if that means that they lost tonight, for that reason, then like so be it. The division lead is still what it is. Like this team, everything about this team is getting ready for October, and with that means they're not going to pitch their best relievers every single night, even if it is a one-run game. Like, you mentioned it, like guys, they've kind of been using guys a lot. I know it's only been 5 days or whatever since the All-Star break, but when they haven't really been getting a ton of length out of their starters, which means that a lot of these bullpen guys have been throwing a lot. So, it's frustrating when it's a one-run game that's seemingly there for the taking, and you still have every single best reliever in your bullpen is sitting there, in theory, ready to go. But, they stuck with Yohan there. And obviously, like we all know what the deal is with Yohan. Like he's probably not going to be here much longer. He might not even be here tomorrow. Like they're going to have to clear more space on the 40-man and on the 26-man to activate Clayton Kershaw. So it definitely felt like it was kind of just like, let's let Yohan wear this one. Like, he actually came in that first inning and got out of it. So he looked pretty good. So you sent him out there for a second inning, hopefully, hoping he could get out of that as well. And obviously, I don't even know if he got an out, or maybe he got one out in that eighth inning, whatever it was. But yeah, it escalated pretty quickly from there. And at that point, the game's just over. So, it's frustrating in a one-run game. But you also have to look at the bigger picture here. And this team's playing for October.
Yeah, we have our first super chat of the night. Gabriel Fernandez, thank you for this. Says, I'm over the Ramirez experiment. Well, look, I get it. I understand the frustration. And like Daniel said, it's probably ending tomorrow. So Clayton Kershaw is coming back from the 60-day injured list. The Dodgers need to make a 40-man roster move the way they did similar to with James Paxton when River Ryan was ready to come up for his debut. If you DFA the pitcher who is on your active roster and 40-man roster, you sort of kill two birds with one stone, and it's an easy way to free up a spot for Clayton Kershaw. So my suspicion is that Yohan Ramirez is DFA'd tomorrow. I think even had he not necessarily struggled tonight, that was probably going to be the likely outcome anyway. They're going to have him, take the 2 innings tonight, and he's been a little bit of a workhorse, and I know that isn't something that fans want to hear and have not enjoyed always seeing. But yeah, I mean, it's just the reality at this point. Like the Dodgers are looking ahead to October. They're not going to bring in. I did see a question actually about Joe Kelly, and yes, he obviously came in to pitch the 8th inning, so he was available, and he had been rested the last, I think, 2 games after some high usage. But you could see that Dave Roberts, like clearly the preference was to save Joe Kelly for hopefully the 9th inning, right? Because now if you bring him in sooner instead of letting Johan at least start that 8th inning, then who's pitching the 9th? Like you're not going to go to Daniel Hudson again. You're not going to go to Blake Treinen again. So there's still would have been some question marks. Fact of the matter is Dave Roberts' hands were really tied. And I know that's not a popular thing to say. I know it's not necessarily an acceptable opinion, but it is a reality.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 162 game season. Like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, you play to win most of them, but you're not necessarily going to be playing all out to win all of them. Like it's Game 7 of the World Series. Like, especially when you talk about how many injuries this team has dealt with, like, especially on the pitching staff, like both starters and relievers, like they've been seeing guys go down left and right. And let's face it, like Blake Treinen and Daniel Hudson, they're both on the back end of their career. I think that's, putting it mildly. Like those guys are in their upper 30s as far as age goes. So you don't want to overwork those guys. Like I think if it was like a close division race and the Dodgers had like a 2-game lead on the Giants, like it's a different story, obviously. But when you're sitting here with an 8 or 9 game division lead, you've won 5 straight coming out of the All-Star break. You're starting to get guys back and you're going to probably be clearing Johan off the 40-man roster tomorrow. Like that's honestly the perfect night to at least try and get 2 innings out of him. Maybe you could say like they should have went to Kelly earlier. Like I think it was pretty clear in that 8th inning after like a couple batters that Johan was not shaping up to go well for him. So like, I guess, the argument could be maybe you could go to Kelly, 2 or 3 batters later, and maybe it's like a 4-1 game instead of like an 8-1 game or whatever it ended up being at the end of that inning. So I get that, but like you said, like they were clearly trying to save Kelly for the 9th inning. They ended up using Yarborough, who I'm guessing like they probably wanted to stay away from him, but he's always kind of that guy where it's like we need someone, so Yarborough like go get loose. But with Clayton Kershaw presumably not giving them a ton of length tomorrow, obviously you want to have as many bullpen guys available for that as well. So I feel like I've said this a million times, like I understand the frustration, I really do, but if we're sitting here in October and we have a healthy bullpen, it's because of nights like tonight, which didn't go the Dodgers' way, but it's more looking at the greater good.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is, sure, maybe to your point, if Joe Kelly comes in earlier in the inning, the game doesn't necessarily go away. But Joe Kelly also, like, he wasn't exactly lights out. I mean, he gave up a bunch of hits. Like that's how the Giants really like continued to blow the game open. And yes, those were inherited runners from Johan, but Kelly, like I said, he didn't come in and get them out of the inning right away. So who knows what would have happened? Even if he does come in sooner, maybe he then is the one sort of wearing it a little bit the way Johan did. I want to get into Tyler Glasnow, and that ties into our second super chat we have tonight from Good Vibrations. Thank you for that. I know you've been in here pretty frequently of late. We appreciate the support. It says Tyler Glasnow is not an ace. Past 7 games, he looks like James Paxton, 2-6, 5.72 ERA in the playoffs. He says needed to get an ace at the deadline, but they still have a chance. The deadline hasn't passed, so good news there. He appreciates us. Good Vibrations. We appreciate you. Daniel, how much concern is there with what maybe Glasnow, what you saw a little bit tonight? He did go 5 innings, just the 2 runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. We've seen a little bit of a decline since kind of some of his early season dominance. Is it the back? You think the back maybe was bothering him a little bit here and there, and now this was just rust, or is there something bigger at play?
Yeah, I would say like the concern for me would be more in regards to his health than his ineffectiveness. Like, he just came off the back issue, and hopefully he came out of this start without any setbacks or anything. Like there was obviously he threw however many pitches he was going to throw. Like it wasn't a short abbreviated start or anything by any means, but you're talking about a guy who's basically at his career high in innings already. So that's, for me, like that's where the concern comes from. I think there's, throughout the course of a 162 game season, there's going to be peaks and valleys. Like there's going to be times where Glasnow looks like the best pitcher on earth, and then there's going to be other outings like tonight where he just doesn't seem to have it. And That was honestly kind of expected tonight. Like he hasn't pitched in 3 weeks, and I know he had like one simulated game or whatever, but no rehab assignment, so he hasn't pitched in an actual game in 3 weeks. So I think there was a little bit of rust there. Like his command was off. He was getting behind on most hitters. A lot of walks, like uncharacteristic amount of walks. So I'm not necessarily concerned about that part of it. I would just be concerned about the fact that he's basically on pace to throw like 180, 190 innings here, and the most he's ever thrown is 120. So, we've talked deadline a lot, and we'll talk deadline more going forward, but I definitely think they're going to go get a starting pitcher. I don't know if it's going to be an ace, like maybe Garrett Crochet is the name we've been hearing a lot. Like that, he would qualify as an ace, I'd say. Obviously, Tarek Skubal qualifies as an ace, but I think that's pretty unlikely. So I don't know if there's an ace out there for them to get unless it's Crochet. And honestly, with Garrett Crochet, it's similar concerns as Tyler Glasnow. Like he's at his career, way past his career high in innings at this point. So, I think with this staff, it's going to be more about having like 3 or 4 number 2, quality starters as opposed to having like that true ace. And I still think you could win with that. And also like Tyler Glasnow on any given night is capable of looking like an ace. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility that he goes out there and strikes out like 13 in his next start. So I'm not concerned right now. It's July 24th. There's plenty of time to get right here. I'm just hoping he stays healthy. That's the main thing for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, if there are any signs that his back is still bothering him, the Dodgers are just going to shut him down again. Like they'll get through the regular season, and similar to how the Dave Roberts managed the bullpen tonight, they'll play for October, get Glasnow hopefully healthy for then. I think tonight specifically probably can be chalked up more to just rust. I mean, he didn't go on any sort of rehab assignment. He pitched in a simulated game at Dodger Stadium last week. I think it was probably around 3 or 4 innings. He threw, I think, around about 60 pitches. But that's really been it, that he's, had to sort of get ready to return to the rotation from the injured list. We have another super chat. We're going to stick with starting pitching. This one's from 300GJW, another of our consistent supporters. So we appreciate you being in here once again. So starting pitcher has to go deeper into the game. 4 and 5 inning starts are going to drain all the old bullpen arms. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a fair point. We've seen the rotation really ebb and flow in this regard this season. They were very good, started to struggle, got good again, and now they're sort of regressing again. I think, some of that you can attribute to the injuries. And I know Glasnow is quote unquote healthy because he is back. But again, he was coming back from basically 2 weeks off. And maybe even more, I think 2.5 weeks.
It was like 20 days total. So yeah.
So almost 3 weeks. Like that's he probably wasn't, even if he pitched well tonight, he probably wasn't going to go much more than 5 innings, short of like the Giants swinging at the first pitch often enough that his pitch count was just way low. And then I think the other factor is because of all the injuries, you've had Justin Robleski, making starts for you. And he is still a prospect, a young pitcher who doesn't have the experience or the development yet to go, 6 or 7 innings. And River Ryan just made his MLB debut and he got into the 6th inning. And that was the first time he's ever done it in his professional career, including the minor leagues. Landon Knack has been pretty much capped at like 5 innings and 5 and dive, if you will. So yeah, I think this is a fair point. I think some of it is a little bit of a matter of just circumstance right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think if you ask the Dodgers, would you guys want to get more length out of your starters? They would say absolutely. Like, heck yeah. Like, obviously you would love to save your bullpen as much as possible. You'd love to have starters who go 6, 7, 8 innings, whatever the case may be. But like you said, like kind of with their injuries, this isn't their, the starting rotation they envision right now. They have a lot of young guys who naturally are just not going to give you as much length. And they've had a lot of, of their main starters kind of on the way back from injury. And it's going to take time for those guys to build up as well. So, yeah, I mean, we would all love if they could get more length from their starters. But I would say like the more important thing is, keeping these guys healthy. And if that means you have to limit them to 85, 90 pitches instead of 105, 110, then that's just what they're going to do.
Yeah. Let's move on to now our next topic. If you missed the news before tonight's game, the Dodgers signed Nick Ahmed and put him in the lineup right away at shortstop. and expect to see that moving forward because Miguel Rojas is now on the 10-day injured list with right forearm tightness. Dave Roberts said that an MRI revealed that Rojas had a flexor tendon strain. So it's going to be a while for Rojas until he's back in the lineup. I mean, my guess is that Mookie beats him back at this point because Mookie is making progress in his recovery, fortunately enough. But Daniel, let's focus on Nick Ahmed a little bit. The Dodgers got their shortstop at the deadline after all.
Yeah, no, we were joking. We got to give Andrew Friedman some credit. Everyone's been asking for shortstops, and here he is. He delivered. So, no, in all seriousness, though, like we're looking at 4 injured infielders right now, and that's counting Chris Taylor, who just went down today, and Nick Ahmed obviously can't really hit a lick, I should say. We've seen him where he was in Arizona forever, and then he was with the Giants earlier this year. Great glove, so at least we could bank on that, like for the next week or however long he's going to be with the team and playing shortstop until Mookie or Rojas comes back. At least we could bank on some good defense at shortstop, and then whatever comes with the bat is a plus, I guess. But we're sitting here less than a week away from the deadline, especially now with Rojas going on the IL and Taylor getting hurt as well. Maybe that makes them feel, more pressure. No, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but more urgency to go and add an infielder. Like we've been talking a lot about outfielders. I feel like we've been talking a lot about starting pitching, of course. I feel like the conversation as far as acquiring a shortstop or acquiring infielders has kind of quieted recently, and that's a credit to guys like Gavin Lux has been doing better. Taylor was doing better until he goes down. Miggy Rose been kind of doing his thing all year, but now with a lot of these guys going down, as nice as it is to just pick up Ahmed off the street, like I'll be curious to see if they actually go out and get an infielder who could actually hit. I'll leave it at that.
Because the 2 they've added so far during the season have not been strong in that department. I'm with you. I do wonder. I think had Taylor not had his growing injury tonight, and I did see Blake send out some tweets that Taylor said he's going to get, I believe, an MRI tomorrow, and this is his first time sort of experiencing a growing injury, so he's not really sure what to expect. But I mean, those are tricky. So my guess automatically is he's out for at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I do wonder if now, like you said, if the Dodgers are going to be a little bit more motivated to get an infielder. All of that being said, I don't know of like significant impact that is out there amongst the infield, especially if you're looking at mainly shortstop and third base. If you want to include, Max Muncy being out, Bo Bichette was obviously a popular name, and he's hurt right now. Willy Adames I don't think he's going to be traded with the way the Brewers are playing. So part of me wonders if yes, are the Dodgers a little bit more motivated to still try to find something. The other part is if there isn't huge upside, are they just going to say, hey, Mookie's back in 3 weeks anyway. We're comfortable enough with Nick Ahmed filling in at shortstop for now. And then third base, I mean, you kind of figure out with Kike or Biggio, I guess. I mean, I see EB saying we need Muncy back. That's not something I'm counting. It's definitely not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what direction the Dodgers possibly go in and if tonight ends up changing anything.
Yeah, and I see someone else in the chat saying the name Luis Rengifo. He could be an option there. He brings a little versatility to the table. We know the Dodgers have liked him in the past. They almost acquired him once, so why not go for it again? But yeah, honestly, like since the Bo Bichette injury happened, and honestly, he's having a pretty bad year even before that. Like there isn't really like an impact bat like middle infielder out there necessarily. Paul DeYoung is another guy that we've talked about, but he's not anything to go crazy over. Like he's an upgrade over some of the guys they had, but he's not like a middle of the order bat or anything. So yeah, I mean, we were texting earlier. You were joking about bringing back Ahmed Rosario. Hey, he's batting over 300 with the Tampa Bay Rays. I know batting average is your favorite stat, so why not?
Go. Yeah, they're gonna trade for Randy Arozarena and Ryan Pepio and Ahmed Rosario. Big blockbuster to impress all the needs. I think, another factor too that needs to be considered is the 40-man roster crunch. And we've seen it, happening where they're having to DFA a bunch of guys and I know fine, there's not going to be many tears shed over Yohan Ramirez, maybe even not over James Paxton, but if you do go and trade for somebody, like that is a factor that you have to then figure out. Maybe it's a little bit easier to just look internally, call it Chris Owings. I know Lipsius was a popular name about a month ago. Maybe the Dodgers bring one of them up in the meantime for Chris Taylor's injury. Or like you said, like I half joked about, maybe they end up trading for somebody like Ahmed Rosario. That's part of a bigger deal. All right, let's turn the page on tonight. I think there was enough frustration and disappointment, and look ahead to tomorrow. It's an early start, 1:10 midweek game at Dodger Stadium, and the big news, of course, is Clayton Kershaw is coming back. He pitched. He went made 3 rehab starts. 1 was in June, and then 2 were this month. Pitched a combined 10 innings. He went 3 innings and then 4 and 4. Or excuse me, 3 innings, 3 innings, and then 4 innings his last time. Daniel, I'm looking forward to Kershaw being back. I'm glad that he's been able to navigate this recovery. I was skeptical when he first had his surgery, just because of the nature of a shoulder injury for a pitcher of his age. Are you concerned at all that maybe this has been rushed a little bit because of the state of the rotation?
That is honestly my main concern here. Like, obviously, I'm excited to see Clayton Kershaw back on the big league mound at Dodger Stadium. It's going to be a hot one tomorrow. First of all, like they picked quite the game for him to come back in 1:10 game in the middle of July. But yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily see what the rush was here. Like, I would have given him probably 2 or 3 more rehab starts. Like, just make sure, because he went out there and had the 1 setback. So once that happened, I was like, all right, they're going to take it nice and slow here. Like, they're not going to waste anything, because we're pretty much at the point, like, here at the end of July, where if he goes out there tomorrow and has another setback, like, then you're really against time. Like, then you're looking at a mid-September type, comeback. Like, that's best case scenario probably. So yeah, I definitely thought they'd be more cautious here, take their time building him up. Especially when you see like some of these young guys have come up and pitched well. And, they just optioned a guy like Landon Knack today, and they might option another guy tomorrow if they want to bring in another reliever or something. Like, I just feel like at this point, like, let these young kids pitch. They've been doing good enough that, the division lead is still what it is. So I definitely thought they'd give it a couple more weeks with Kershaw, but at this point, I think with him, like, where anytime he takes the mound at this point in his career, we're just kind of hoping for the best. Like, even just seeing Clayton Kershaw and back right next to each other here on the screen gives me a little PTSD. So, we'll hope for the best, and I am excited to see him pitch.
Yeah, a couple things really quick. Let me pause the Kershaw discussion. So Dave Roberts did say in his post-game press conference tonight that the Dodgers obviously were running short on available relief pitchers. He wanted to avoid even using Ryan Yarbrough, but then that got to be something that they had to rely on. With Chris Taylor specifically, there is some decent level of concern. And if he does go on the IL, which does appear likely, James Outman will be back up. So Outman's going to get another crack at things here.
Did he even make it to OKC?
Probably not. Back to Kershaw. I'm considering how the Dodgers have historically handled everything, that it is, just the end of July. I'm with you. I thought that he would have made at least 1 more rehab start, especially, and, when the Dodgers made this decision to have Kershaw come back on Thursday, they're not necessarily, they don't have the information that they have now of, as we just went over at the beginning of the show, and I reiterated just now, the bullpen has been taxed. And so Kershaw's coming back. He's stretched out to 4 innings. Like, best case scenario tomorrow, he gives you 5 innings, which again is another short start. And so it's going to be interesting. And you bring up a good point that, if there is any sort of shoulder issue, soreness that lingers, like, it then really jeopardizes, I think, the rest of the season in October. And then for me, it'll circle back to, well, wait a minute, you guys were a little quick to trade James Paxton. Yeah. Because that is the one thing, like, I could see it making sense from the standpoint of DFA him now when they did at the beginning of the week, trade him because there is trade value. And the reports are that the Dodgers have taken multiple calls from teams with interest in Paxton. So I could see that. But it does I forget, and forgive me if I said this to you, I and our viewers who may have been with us last night, I said I've admitted to losing track of who I've shared what information with because we've done so many of these shows. Moving away from Paxton, to me, does put more pressure on Kershaw, on Buehler, on Bobby Miller, on Yamamoto to not only come back, but also then be effective.
Yeah. Well, first of all, shout out to you. I meant to say this earlier, but our guy Spiegel's out of town this week, so you've been stepping up here to hosting all these shows, doing a great job. So thanks for that. I know it's a lot of talking and every night, obviously, but yeah, like you said, it does put more pressure on those other guys because like we're sitting here in July and like if we have this conversation often, like what's the postseason rotation looking like? And I feel like every time we have the conversation, the answers are different. Like we legit have no clue at this point. So and you also brought up the length as well with the bullpen. Like that's another factor. We had that conversation. You obviously would like to have starters who could go more than 4 or 5 innings, especially when you're in this stretch here where I think they, have like 4 or 5 more days in a row without an off day. So yeah, hoping for the best. And obviously, Clayton Kershaw, he's a competitor. And I also think he's at the point in his career where, obviously he's a lot more mature than when he was young, he just wanted to get up there and pitch, like no matter what. It didn't matter if he felt great or not. Like he just wanted to go up there and compete for his team. But I think at this point in his career, given all the injuries he's dealt with, like he knows his body and he knows like how he's feeling. And he knows if he's not feeling great, probably don't pitch. So that at least gives me a little confidence, like the fact that, he's on board with it. And he didn't because when he did have that setback in the minor leagues, like he kind of reported that himself, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Like, so it's not like he tried to pitch through it. So, we obviously hope there isn't another scenario like that where he has to take himself out of a game. But I think at this point in his career, he knows his body. So I'm just kind of banking on that.
All right, let's turn it over to some questions that you guys have. Just as a reminder, if you could start it with the word question in all caps, that makes it easier for Daniel and I to find. Before we get to those, we do have some super chats from Rod. I apologize on the delay in getting to these, but thank you. He says his first one is Barnes. His hitting streak takes his. I think he's saying he's going to be shortstop maybe since he's on a 10-game hitting streak now. Another one from Rod said Barnes is also going to become a 2-way player because he's going to be another starter to help the Dodgers rotation. Hey, they might take it at this point. I think.
Yeah, if he could eat some innings, why not?
Yeah, anything they can sort of get.
And I will say on Barnes, that's like one of the clutcher hits you'll see in like a 8-2 blowout or whatever. Like for you to get one at bat and have the longest hit streak of your career, for you to get the hit there, good for Barnes.
Yeah, I thought about when I saw he was pinch hitting, I was like, man, that's a rough way for your hitting streak to end. And I apologize. I should not have doubted the captain. I should have just trusted that, of course, he was going to come up with a hit. All right, here we go. We have some good questions tonight. Here, Good Vibration says you have only one player to get at the deadline. Who are you trading for? Let's add the caveat that this needs to be realistic. Like it's not. Yeah, I'm gonna go get Juan Soto.
Yeah.
So who would be at the top of your wish list within reason?
So this might not be the popular answer, and we talked about this the other day, but I honestly think right now it's Jack Flaherty. Like you said, I'm trying to be realistic here. Like Skubal would be the number 1 pick if I thought that was realistic, but I just don't. And the reason why I would go Flaherty over Garrett Crochet, who's kind of the other popular name right now, is one, Jack Flaherty's on an expiring contract, and so with that, he would be cheaper to acquire. Like you wouldn't necessarily be giving up the farm for him. And I also think with Jack Flaherty, he's having a great year. We just talked about this the other day, and he pitched again tonight and had another really good start. I believe he dropped his ERA to like 2.9 on the year and striking out a bunch of dudes. So that's a guy that you could throw right in your rotation. And with him, there's not the concerns of innings that you have with Garrett Crochet, who's similar to Tyler Glasnow, like blowing by his career high here. So I think if you could go get Jack Flaherty, you probably aren't giving up any of your top, 3 or 4 prospects. Like it's probably a couple of your mid-tier type guys. And that's a guy who you could plug in your rotation right away and not be concerned about innings. He's stayed healthy and made every start this year. So that's great to see as well. So I think right now, he would be my top pick. And obviously there's a lot of names being thrown out there, and I do think they need a bat as well, especially now with all these even more injuries happening. But I still think, if they could get a starting pitcher, that's number one priority for me.
Yeah, I'll go Screwball just because I think that there is enough of a chance. I think the Dodgers would have to basically, like, not crazy overpay, but do a little bit of an overpay. So to me, it is like quote unquote realistic. Like I don't think the Tigers are completely opposed to it. But yeah, I mean, Flaherty is certainly, that's another great choice. And you had a lot of people supporting you and in agreement, as you saw if you are watching this, as I put the comments up. Aaron has a question. He wants to know who do we think the Dodgers can get in the James Paxton trade. I mean, I think it's going to be a lower level minor league guy, like at best case, somebody maybe in Double-A who would be a prospect. Maybe the next River Ryan, if you will. If the Dodgers turn Matt Beatty into River Ryan, maybe they can turn James Paxton into something similar. Michael Negretti says the Dodgers need starting pitching. How about Paxton? Maybe. Hey, we'll revisit that after the trade deadline passes. If we run into another repeat of last year where Daniel and Jeff were doing a live show for us for multiple hours just to get Lance Lynn, we can revisit James Paxton.
Don't forget they got Ryan Yarborough as well.
Oh,
Come
that's
on.
Right. That's right. I forgot about Yarborough. Let's see. What else did we have here? EB wants to know, will Dave Roberts be fired if the Dodgers don't win a World Series this year?
I'd say probably not. I mean, it's always depends on the circumstances. Like if he makes a colossal mistake that costs them like in the World Series or something, then maybe it's something you consider. But if it hasn't happened in some of the past years we've seen and some of the past stuff that's happened in the playoffs, then I don't think it's necessarily going to happen this year. And even today, like Alex Cora signed an extension with the Red Sox, and basically all the tweets from like the Dodger beat writers was like, this is the framework for Dave Roberts' next deal, or like Dave Roberts is going to get even more than that. Like, I think it's more likely that Dave Roberts gets extended than he gets fired.
Yeah. Now you're looking at, so Cora's getting, I think, $8 million a year or something, right? And Craig Counsell was at 7 or just over 7. My guess is Dave Roberts is going to pass both of those guys at minimum. I think he'll end up tying like what Cora's making per year. And what's interesting is we happened to publish the article today on DodgerBlue.com. There were some rumblings of Alex Cora potentially replacing Dave Roberts if the Dodgers decide to make a change, if they flame out of the playoffs again. And Cora was entered. This was his final season, the final season on his contract. So had he not necessarily re-upped, there were some thoughts that he would maybe end up managing the Dodgers, which would have been interesting to see. But hey, it's neither here nor there. Paul Gutierrez says, would you rather trade for Luis Robert or Randy Arozarena?
This is honestly a good question. Like pretty similar type players. Obviously, Randy has the postseason resume that I don't even know if Luis Roberts ever played in the postseason, obviously being on the White Sox. But I do think Luis Robert is the more talented player of the two. He plays center field, which if you look at the roster construction of the Dodgers, like if they're going to pick up an outfielder, I think they would prefer it be a center fielder just because ideally Andy Pages, slots in better in the corners. Obviously Teo's taken up one of the corners as well. So I do think they would prefer a center fielder. And I just think Luis Robert just has like so much talent. Like the guy's got power, the guy's got speed. He's a good defender. The only real knock on him is kind of that he's had some injuries in the past, but he's healthy right now, having another solid season. Arozarena's having a pretty down year, but he's kind of gotten hot in the last couple weeks. So honestly, if they could get either of those guys, I'm definitely interested. I prefer Luis Roberts slightly, but I think they're both great options.
Yeah. David wants to know, which by the way, David gave us a huge $100 super chat last night. So David, thank you once again for that. And I know you're in here pretty much every night. He says, do we dare trade River Ryan to get the pieces we need? This is something Anthony and I sort of kicked around. I don't see the Dodgers really being willing to trade River Ryan. I think the only scenario that I could see it happening is if they're going to get Skubal, and maybe including River Ryan means you can save like an extra prospect. Like instead of putting like volume prospects together, you do River Ryan plus one more prospect, and then maybe like a James Outman or somebody from the major league roster or on the 40-man roster who you're trying to clear space. Miguel Vargas potentially. but short of that, at least for me, like I don't really see the Dodgers entertaining that
Yeah,
possibility.
no, I agree. I guess the other scenario would be like if it's with the White Sox where you're getting Crochet and Luis Robert, like something like that, where you're getting obviously 2 all-star caliber players. But yeah, I definitely think River Ryan's. I don't want to say he's untouchable, but he's probably the prospect they would least like to trade, especially when he's already up at the major leagues. Like ideally, you don't want to trade away from your major league roster when you're trying to compete now. Like they'd rather trade their prospects that haven't debuted yet. So like you said, like obviously if it's Scooball or if they're getting some superstar, then yeah, you're open to it. But outside of that, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we'll take a couple more and then we're gonna end this one tonight. Blake wants to know if the start time for tomorrow can be pushed back. Try running that by Kershaw, Blake. See if Kershaw is willing to adjust his preparation for you. If he says yes, then I think maybe MLB will agree.
I'm guessing a lot of fans who are planning on going to the game would be on board with that, considering I think it's supposed to be like 98 or something tomorrow.
Yeah. Blake's gonna have a nice early warm morning tomorrow at the stadium. Let's see. Guys, if you have a couple more questions, we'll take them here. I didn't really see. Well, here Michael Carrillo wants to know, will the Dodgers medical staff finally get fired? This is obviously a popular. This narrative, this sentiment is gaining some legs on social media, especially with Kyle Hurt. Dave Roberts said today that he needs Tommy John surgery, so that's unfortunate. That's another pitching prospect that Dodgers are going to lose not only for the rest of this season, probably all of next year as well. Just considering how they handle things. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Again, I know that it's easy to pile on the Dodgers. I think this is the team that we all follow closest. And so when injuries happen, we're hyper aware and we feel like they're the only team going through it. But especially with pitcher injuries, it's been across the league.
Yeah, for sure. And I know being on the Lakers side, obviously I get a lot of those same comments over there as well. So I get the frustration just because you go from a Lakers season where a ton of injuries right into a Dodgers season where there's a ton of injuries. So I get it.
All right, here. Maybe we'll end with this one. Back-to-back Nate says, are you confident the Dodgers will add an impact bat at this trade deadline?
I don't know if I'd say confident just because we know Andrew Friedman isn't a guy who's going to overpay and probably to get some of these guys, like we were just talking about Randy and Luis Robert, those are 2 guys who have 2 years of club control left. So even though their teams are kind of out of it this year, like they're not expiring deals where they're forced to trade those guys. So you kind of have to overpay if you're going to get one of those guys. So I wouldn't say confident. They'll get a bat, but like similar to last year where they went with like Ahmed Rosario and Kike, like it might be some mid-tier type guys or just guys who could kind of fill out the end of the roster as opposed to like the true middle of the order type bat.
Yeah. Here we have, maybe this will be the last one. Hawaiian Kira says, who wins a championship first, the Dodgers or the Lakers?
I think the safe answer here is the Dodgers. I mean, first of all, they're going to have an opportunity first. Like they're going to be in the playoffs in a few months from now. And also, like as we know, even though we've only seen the Dodgers win one championship during this run, like we know the window's pretty much open like every year. So, eventually they're going to get hot and win it all. And I'm just less confident that the window for the Lakers is not going to be open much longer. Like LeBron's 40 or whatever. And B, they're just, they're not as good as the Dodgers are. So I would say that's pretty easily the Dodgers.
Yeah, but NBA doesn't, although the new CBA has kind of brought about a bunch more parity, but they typically don't have the randomness of MLB postseason.
True.
And the Lakers also, Bronny's there waiting in the wings. Once LeBron retires, then it's Bronny's team. Everybody else is just going to have to get on board.
That's true.
All right, so I was getting ready to sign off, but we have another super chat from Rod. He said, in 1960, so he's going way back, 4 starters covered, 145 starts. Yeah, I mean, look, for better or worse, things have changed with how teams approach pitching back in 1965. I get the sentiment. I get the frustration. I was just on here, I think it was last night, saying, look, I do believe that maybe, the Dodgers could potentially do some not soul searching, but a little bit of reevaluating how maybe they're developing pitching prospects. Like maybe don't necessarily cut them, limit them so aggressively to 4 or 5 innings. Like maybe let them stretch out a little bit. I think the problem with that, though, is everybody is chasing velocity right now, and there's no team that's going to tell a pitcher, hey, don't worry about throwing as hard. Like, we want you to go 7 innings instead of throwing really hard for 5 innings. So that's, kind of the trade-off there. But I appreciate the super chat. Rod, you were active tonight in supporting the channel. We appreciate that. Okay. I think we're going to end it there unless we get maybe one final question in. Let me do a quick scroll.
While you're doing that, I would just also like to point out that in 1965, I think you could get into the movies for like a nickel or something. So times have definitely changed since then.
Well, hey, maybe we should go back to that, though. That one we can bring back. I'd be fine.
I'm in on that.
I'd be fine paying a nickel to go to the movies. It's crazy now, unless you happen to go like midweek matinee or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't think either of those are really happening. All right. Well, we didn't get any last second questions there. So we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We have over 2,000 people in here. I know it was a frustrating game, but you guys still come out and support us, and we definitely appreciate that. Daniel, thank you for hopping on. Like we did promise everybody you would be a little bit more available now that the Lakers stuff has slowed down. So we appreciate that. I'll be back tomorrow night with a live show. I believe it'll be Blake and I. He's going to be at Kershaw Start. And so don't have a set time yet for that one. We'll have to see when he can get home from the stadium. And then it'll be Anthony and myself on Friday night. And then you guys aren't going to have to listen to me hosting anymore, because then Scott is in the hosting chair Sunday. And then Jeff will also be back next week. And so those guys will have you covered, and you won't have to hear me talk as much as I have. Thank you, everybody, once again for tuning in. That's Daniel. I'm Matthew, and we'll see you next time.